And then I says to the guy, listen to this. Oh, are we on? Okay.
Don't do that to your dog. It's unnatural.
Yeah. Illegal in several states.
What's happening? It's officially holidays are over. 2021 is in full swing. Anything different? What's happening?
Yeah, I guess. Is this the first one of 2021?
No, we did one, but it still kind of felt like the we were still on the tail end of the holidays. So, but now we're kind of right in the midst, right in the full swing of things.
Right.
What's everybody doing to keep busy?
They're doing yard work, more yard work. The never-ending job back there. Yeah,
it really is never-ending. It makes you want to get a condo so you don't ever have to do yard work again.
True.
Yeah, I'm contemplating putting in that fake grass actually, because I would go for.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Really?
What?
Yeah, my friend has it. My friend has it, and he says it's awesome.
Yeah, but what happens is, because I walk the neighborhood and there's a lot of fake grass in my neighborhood.
Okay.
And I still see weeds growing out of it.
Really?
Because
I think you have to make sure you
all that dirt and all those leaves still like break down on top of it, right? Mm-hmm. So seeds can still take root.
Right.
Yeah, but you live in Los Angeles, so it's like fake breasts, fake lawn. This seems pretty natural.
The minute you put in fake lawn, you've got to start going for like the blue light special lunch. You got to start eating dinner at 4 o'clock.
You wear the matching sweatsuit with your chick. Yeah.
You got to pull your socks up to your knees.
No.
Like there's
I love having
things you got to do. So
I love having real grass. It's just there's a bit of a gopher situation now, which
no. Yeah, you always
Corey can come over and trap them for me.
Yeah. It's like groundhogs in the valley. I noticed that there's it's either groundhogs or
gophers.
Or gophers. Like
I
don't know what's going on.
Moles. I think they're called moles or something like that.
Moles, Moles with a V. Voles. That's what we have up here. Anyways, yeah.
Maybe it's like that. Maybe it's like the Kevin Bacon movie Tremors, and they're like large carnivorous worms.
You got a picture.
Shane, you have a dog, don't you?
What's that?
Do you have a dog?
Not right now.
Oh, because
sometimes I take dogs in and look after them though from time to time.
Well, the reason I say is that they, for whatever reason, and I don't have an explanation for this, but voles are huge up here in spring and summer, and they destroy lawns. But if you look down the street, you can always tell the people that have pets because for whatever reason they don't like hanging out where the dogs are.
Right.
Wow. Well,
what the cat? That's him. That's what they are. There's a little head sticking out of a hole.
Yeah, that'd be a gopher, dude.
It doesn't look like a gopher.
Back in the day, we called them prairie dogs
of some kind, but it's not a gopher. They got smaller eyes and.
Do they have long tails? Because those are up in the mountains up here. At night, they come out when the sun goes down.
Okay.
They're like a mini gopher, but with the long tail. I'm not sure what they're called.
Well, they only ever stick their head out because as soon as they see you, they go back down. So I've never seen the other end.
Darren, what are you calling it? What are you calling it? What do they call them? Winnipeg? Voles. A vole.
Well, it's basically kind of like a mole, but different, I guess.
Let me see what a vole looks like.
It's a mole from Winnipeg?
No, because you'd think that would be a war.
From Winnipeg. A mole from Winnipeg.
It's from
Winnipeg, exactly.
I had somebody correct me 3 times before I knew it was a thing too, because I was like, we never had them. But again, we have dogs, so they don't. But I have other friends and then you can get these things that you put in your lawn, and they kind of emit this high frequency that keeps them away too. So
I've tried all those things.
It kind of looks like that, actually. I'm looking at pictures of voles.
I mean,
really, I've never heard of it.
Yeah. It's not a mole. No, moles look like platypus or something, like a anteater.
That'd be cool if you had platypuses in your lawn.
Maybe it is like a gopher.
Must be.
I think it's not like a Saskatchewan gopher.
Is having a cat. When I had cats, I didn't have any gophers for years. Huh. They just leave. They don't want to hang out because they know if they come out, the cats will get them.
Well, the fake lawn situation out here in the desert is really common because it's such a hassle dealing with the water out here, and there are limitations to what. So the older houses will have proper, grass, and then newer properties will be more and more fake lawns, and a lot of them can be deceptively, you'd have to tell me twice. I'd be like, oh, okay, I don't know. I don't stand around looking at people's lawns, but I guess.
So this week on Turf Talk,
I don't have a fake lawn because I have dogs and they don't like it.
That's true. Well, there's one right there.
Yeah.
What's her name again? Is that Sophie?
We got to cover a couple of topics here before we bring our guest on.
Okay.
We got hockey starting this week.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
So
wow.
Yeah. First Jets game is tomorrow, or Thursday.
It is tomorrow. Thursday, yeah.
Thursday.
Who are they playing? Calgary. Wow. Okay.
Calgary.
Well, yeah, they only played like 5 teams all year, so it's going to be.
Who's Shane Gallus cheering for?
Man. How many games this season? Like 50 something?
I think it's 52. Yeah, 50.
Wow.
I'm not, something like that. Yeah.
They are going to hate each other by the end of this season.
Oh, I know. Well, Calgary and Winnipeg for sure, because I mean, like I said, I think February starts off. They play 5 games in a row. I mean, it's just crazy.
Wow.
Playoffs.
So it's and I don't know how the playoffs are going to work, but
I think it's going to be good for the game. It's going to be fun, especially for Canadians.
And at least the teams are traveling.
56 game season. So yeah.
At least the teams travel to the cities. So the Jets will play in their arena. Calgary will play in their arena, where we know during the playoffs last year. I think they've actually included a bylaw that I guess when they put in the new restrictions, there was an exception to the fact that the Jets could play, so it didn't excluded that kind of get together. But I see Ontario today just announced that they're going in a full lockdown too. So
yeah.
I guess it's going to get who knows how it's going to go, but I don't think the audience is going to be anytime soon. So it's going to be a televised event for sure for the next foreseeable future, anyways.
I wonder if it's going to be really markedly distracting once we start letting people back into the games. If that'll affect the guys so accustomed to playing without an audience by the time that happens, it'll be like, whoa, who knows.
Well, and we can't go any further without bringing up our good friend Evander Kane, who we all know used to be Winnipeg Jet and was a real pain in the ass. But I don't know if you guys saw today, but he officially filed for bankruptcy. Made $56 million in his career, and he's filing for bankruptcy. So
how does that happen?
Really?
Because he was a smart ass. So I mean, you get what's coming to you. So
I think there was a famous photo. Didn't he post from the Cosmo here in Vegas?
Yeah, he had
photo
the
with a net of money.
And, yeah. And he was apparently a real desirable kind of guy here at restaurants, and too, he would, threaten waitresses and say, I'm not paying my bill, and if you, don't, comp me, I'm going to tweet out that your restaurant sucks, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, he was that kind of guy, but.
To be fair, we do that all the time. Is that frowned upon or?
No, that's normal. Not a hockey player though.
It's not a hockey player. Yeah,
different when you're a musician. You really need them to compliment you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Todd's usually just drunk and disorderly.
D&D, baby. D&D. But is it one of those things where, because I always, you see that in sports, and the guys who make serious money in sports, you're like, how do these guys go through that kind of money? But all it takes is a couple of divorces or, some things, and stuff just goes crazy. Yeah.
Let's keep in mind, you've got a kid that's, all of a sudden goes from being 18, 19 years old, being signed to these ridiculous contracts. They have no money management skills. So, it's it's I guess it's the same thing in any, you start putting a ton of money in the hands of somebody who doesn't know how to manage it, and they're going to, big money, big spending. So
how far along in his career is he? How far in his career is he? Is he halfway through? Can he make it? Can he make it back and still be okay, or is he going to be a bum?
I don't know. I honestly haven't, done the math on it because I kind of don't like the guy. So I just saw the headline and I figured, he got what coming to him. So.
You should like him. You should go for dinner with him. He gets free meals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How old is he? Like mid-20s?
Well, yeah, he's got to be late 20s maybe now, but yeah.
Ouch, that's even worse. I didn't realize. But he's young. He's young. He'll make it back.
Yeah,
make some of it back. I mean, maybe not $56 million, but
that's insane money, man.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him though. Not at all. Anyway.
Ooh, he's a tough one. Darren Steen.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's great. We should probably look at bringing on our guests today. Who wants to do the honors?
Anybody? I can do it.
Yeah, Todd.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say you look nice today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I pre-recorded all this. I'm actually not here right now. You can't imagine how hard it is to pre-record this to interact. Yeah, to interact with what's going on.
Talking. Yeah. So.
No, this guy, we originally knew him from Honeymoon Suite. He's done a million things. In looking at his credits, I was like, oh, he was involved with that and that and that and that. He currently plays with Roger Hodgson, who was, a very integral member of Supertramp. Last time we played with him, I think Fitz and I crossed paths when he was with Kim Mitchell, an amazing dude and a goddamn handsome man, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise for Ray Coburn.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Again, we have to comment on in the sweet setup you have there. Or if you're like squatting in someone's apartment, you picked the right place to squat.
You know what? I've got this place for the next 2 hours, so let's not waste any time. Let's get down to it.
Well,
a big green screen in the background, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now you're in Montreal, correct?
I am in Montreal. Yes.
And how long have you been
place
there?
to be.
How long have you been in Montreal?
A year and a half now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. I moved here in the summer of 2019, and I was away for most of this first 6 months, and then COVID hit. So I still don't really know many people here.
Okay.
So I'm really I'm grateful for the company for you guys dropping by, because I was getting really lonely.
Well, how is Quebec? How is Quebec on the grand scale of things? You guys are you're pretty high in numbers out there.
Very high in numbers. It's funny though. Just walking around, I live right downtown, and I spend a lot of time in Old Montreal. I practically live in Old Montreal, and people here are really cool, man. They are doing what they have to do. It's strange that we have such high numbers, but the people are good. They're good here.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So you live right in the downtown Montreal area? That must be so rad.
Yeah.
It's beautiful there.
I love it down there, man. It's
gorgeous.
I can understand. Do you speak French, Ray?
No, un petit peu.
Un petit peu?
J'adore apprendre. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah. I pick it up from cereal boxes at hockey games. That's where I get my
right.
Is it cold
probably
right
did
now?
French in school, though, right?
I know. I
did,
yeah,
but I don't remember it.
It's funny because Manitoba. Am I correct in hearing that Quebec? Manitoba is also a bilingual province. Is that true? I just make that up.
No, it's true. There's a lot of French speaking people here. They have actually, Saint Vital, Saint Boniface, like there's a lot of in the south. Yeah. So I would assume so. I mean, Festival de Voyageurs every year.
Right. Right. There you go. There you go.
I mean, I think all of Canada is considered technically, 2 official languages. I don't know, but yeah, there's probably a lot more here than other places for sure.
True. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny because I recently, once in a while, you'll come across, like, I'll be in a store and it'll have like vintage toys or something like that. And I'll look at it and I'll go, check this out. It's like English and French. I go, this is from Canada. This clearly came from Canada. It freaks people out at first. They're like, why has this got French on it? I go, because in Canada, you get both on everything. For those that don't know, you get both languages on everything. Yeah.
It's actually a law. Yeah, you have to.
It's a law. Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't know if that's true actually in Quebec. Do they have English and French on both?
They have, there was a law at one time passed where it had to just be French, and I'm not sure. You think I would know?
Yeah, because I know it was kind of the opposite there, and yes. But the rest of
the stop signs say arrête.
Yes.
It's like that kind of stuff is like, stop signs everywhere else, but then you go to Quebec. So I was really actually talking about this because we're going to have Jean-Marc from the Box on in a couple of weeks, who's a French Canadian artist, and I'm always really fascinated by this because you could attest to this as well, Ray, and I'm sure everybody here can, because I would tour across the country, and if you had a song that was placed and doing really well you could like be across the country just killing it, like getting really full of yourself, and nothing will put you in check quicker than just making it all the way across Canada, going up into Quebec, and having everybody just kind of go, who the hell are these guys? You know, it's kind of like it's a whole other animal.
It's true.
And it was, I thought that was really cool, actually. Like, I was always like, you got to kind of earn you got to earn it all over again by going to Quebec.
Yeah, I agree. It's, I love the culture. I love that they have their own thing going and they really support it. It's magic. It's great.
It's great.
But they will keep you in check for sure. Indeed.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So how did you, how have you been facing all this? Have you literally moved to Montreal? You squatting in that amazing place you're in right now, and then you've been there the whole time by yourself? Pretty much?
Yeah, I've been here the whole time by myself. And you know, it's been, I mean, it's funny because if I was in Toronto where I know everybody, I still would have been alone in my studio by myself most of the time. Right. But it's nice to have the option.
Totally.
But, you know, I'm doing good. I mean, I work and I walk, and if I couldn't, you know, play, I don't know what I would do. I'd probably have hung myself. But
yeah. Yeah. No,
so,
I think we all
would. Yeah. We're lucky for that, and you got, you know, as we all are, we're lucky that we can do that.
Is the Montreal winter a formidable one compared to, say, Toronto or wherever you were prior to that?
I was in Toronto, and last winter in Montreal was, by all accounts, quite mild. So I got off easy. This year, it hasn't been too bad this year either. What I will say is that it's typically 10 degrees colder here, but somehow I find it much more tolerable than in Toronto.
Interesting.
It's kind of darker.
Well, and Todd, you've been across. I'm sure you guys all. You've been across this country enough times to know that Toronto and Montreal, we're talking still pretty mild compared to where, say, we're right smack in the, you know.
Well, we always say that, but I mean, we always say that, but I've you know, managed to be in Montreal when it was the wrong time to be in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
In Toronto, when freak occurrences, you know, it's like
absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. We know what we're dealing with on the prairies when winter comes. We know what that's going to be. So when it happens,
where it's going to be +3 or something tomorrow, which is unheard of in the middle of January. So
that just means you're going to get hammered in February. I can't imagine.
No, I think it just means it's just somebody screwing with us, right? You know, well, here you are, you can't go anywhere, so have some nice weather when you never have it before. So
yeah, that's
exactly a good way to look at it. It's a good way to look
at it. But yeah, music question. Got to ask a music question because I'm seeing all your gear here. I know we're talking about weather and stuff, but like, is all your gear back from tour? Is that what you have with you right now, or did your gear get held up, you know, because of COVID, or are all your keyboards with you right now?
Everything is with me. My keyboards and my guitars. Yeah, that would have been terrible. Basically, with Roger, my setup is 2 Nord stage 2s. One I take with me, the little one. And the other, we always get a backline. So, no, I did not have to go a single day without my stuff, which is I'm so thankful for, because I play it every day. So.
Yeah, I mean, as our tools are required, it's, you know, you got to have them. And well, I see all your gear back there. I loved what you did with the recent soundscape. It was kind of the Pink Floyd, Rick Wright kind of thing. Was that filmed right there?
Thank you. No, that was filmed in Toronto at my old house.
Okay.
I haven't really got the projector set up here yet. That's coming.
Cool.
For sure. What about you guys? Did you guys get caught up with your gear getting stuck elsewhere?
Mine's all in Vegas. I mean, I have everything I need to do stuff here now, but I have a lot of stuff in Vegas right now.
Really?
It's been there for about a year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to have everything, so I'm good.
Shane, where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in a suburb of Los Angeles called Simi Valley. It's just kind of on the outskirts of LA.
I know Simi Valley for sure.
Really?
Well, for one thing, yeah, I know.
I
know of Simi Valley. What's that, Darren?
It's a gated community with all fake grass.
Fake grass. I don't know if you heard about the fake grass.
Right, the fake grass. I did hear it, and that was interesting and educational. Simi Valley, I became aware of because when I did live in Los Angeles, I was there during the riots.
Oh, wow!
the riots, of course, resulted largely from the whole OJ trial, which I watched every day, and of course that took place in Simi Valley. But also our good friend Fred Mandel, keyboard player extraordinaire, Elton John, Queen, blah blah blah, like everything. He lives in Simi Valley too.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so look him up. Look him up. He's a great guy.
You might be neighbors. Yeah.
You might be.
Well, yeah, you'll have to send me some information later.
Cool. I will for sure. I mean, I don't know him that well. When I was in LA a couple of years ago, I called him out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'd love to, buy you lunch. I'd love to meet you and chat with you." And great cat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ray, was the first time you had been in LA during like a touring situation, gigs, or had you gone there, family or by yourself before that, or?
When I was about 13, my friend Attila had some relatives in San Gabriel, so we went down there when we were kids for a couple of weeks, whatever. So we were not in LA, but I got a bit of a taste of California, which I loved, and I love California. And when I decided to leave Toronto, it was going to be Los Angeles or Montreal. Montreal is much more affordable, and I am a Canadian, so it made sense to come here. But I love California with all my heart. And when I first went there, from the first time I went there, I felt at home probably more so than ever I did in Toronto, and the same with Montreal too.
Wow, yeah,
absolutely.
Wow, yeah.
So Ray, I wanted
to LA.
Go ahead, Corey.
I was going to say I moved from Winnipeg to LA just for that same feeling that you had, Ray.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Shane and Corey would probably, applaud that as well. Seeing you guys still live there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, where I live, it's more suburban, so I'm not like right in the city, but I like it here because it's a little bit of kind of my prairie roots are still with me. So if I get into places where it's too congested, I freak out. But
LA is a bit of a jungle,
Yeah,
sure.
But I'm close. I can get there in like 45 minutes.
Cool.
Pretty much anywhere. So it's perfect. I can get to the beach in 30 minutes. I can be in the mountains, like just ride up the hill, and I'm in the mountains for mountain biking. So it works out great for me.
It's beautiful.
Totally.
It's an amazing place.
So I was just going to say,
Corey.
Ray, you've played with so many different people. Corey Hart, Kim Mitchell, of course, Honeymoon Suite, and Roger Hodgson, who's the lead singer for Supertramp. And I just wanted to kind of know how it all got started when you were a kid. Like, did you have supportive parents who were into music? Did you have friends that put you on that track, or?
There were two main things, Corey. Number one, I have three brothers. Two of them are fantastic musicians. My eldest brother's Paul is 10 years older than me. My next oldest, Brian, is 5 years older than me. So Paul kind of passed shit down to Brian, and Brian kind of passed it on to me. But both of them together have been a huge influence for me and an inspiration. And also, my parents were in the dance hall business.
That's right, Key to Ballot, right?
Key to Valley, yeah. And before that, a place in Aurelia called the Pav, which was very similar, a little smaller. And so, and that was, my parents aren't musicians, but they love it. They love the scene. They love music. And so for them, it was kind of like being in music, and they really, and the reason I say that is because running a place like the Key, for instance, is a labor of love. You really, really got to be into it to do it. So those two things, my older brothers and being around those environments, it didn't take long.
Did you have a band with your brothers at all, or?
No, we never have, and people ask us that all the time, especially my family, my relatives, because my mom's one of 10 kids, so I have a lot of relatives. It's a big Italian family, believe it or not. Look at me. But everyone always asks that question, and I don't know if we would be able to stand each other long enough to have a band, but I really want to do some recording with them, and I really want to try blending our voices. The brother thing, right? Yeah. So I still hope to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it interesting? Like an interesting conversation, because we always talk about keyboards. We don't have a keyboard player until now, because Ray just joined the band. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but that's happening right now. We actually really need you, but it's one of those things that I always think about, because in the advent of, there's no other position in a band than a keyboard player that has to kind of roll with technology. You know what I mean? Like drums are drums. Obviously, things have changed. Guitars are guitars, and amps are amps. But that has changed in its own way. But it's keyboards that are on a constant, you know what I mean? Like what you probably started out on is so different than where you are now. Where back in the day, you'd see guys with, with like an organ and a Fender Rhodes, and like there was a bunch of different pieces. And then all of a sudden you go to a club and you'll see some guy just stand there with the X-frame one keyboard, doing all of it in one thing. Where are you within that world? Like, obviously you have to be so ahead of the curve when the swings come in like that.
Yeah, well, I've always somewhat kept up on it, but I go for I do like the old school stuff. I mean, if I could have always afforded to have a B3 and a Rhodes, I had a Yamaha electric Grand and stuff. I do love that stuff. I had, a Whirlies, whatever. I've had many.
Most importantly, where do you stand on the keytar?
Well, I think that I could lie and say I've never tried one, but some Honeymoon Suite videos might give that away. It was kind of, I've been
underrated.
Guilty.
It's underrated. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But did you ever do the Cinderella swinging around your neck thing, like the guitars? Now, that would be a move.
I did not do that because, it wasn't wireless for one thing.
That's right.
You would tear a whole bunch of things on it.
Yeah. But there was a time in Honeymoon Suite where I had that going, and, we would all do like the rock thing. We'd all stand with one foot on the monitor in front of the stage and rock out.
Sure. Yeah. I would be disappointed if you didn't, frankly.
Yeah. You got to do everything right once.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I do really, because we're talking about Honeymoon Suite, I do think that the keyboard part in a Honeymoon Suite band, which is, we've always said, the template of so many great and specifically Canadian bands that we love and grew up on, are always keyboard heavy.
Yeah,
guitar, bass, drums, keyboard heavy. And not just accompaniment, but major parts, integral parts to songs.
It's rather than the second guitar player, it's a keyboard player. Whether it's like Loverboy, Streetheart, Harlequin, Honeymoon Suite, it just goes. The list goes on and on. That we would Haywire, like all these bands that we would always kind of go. We'd always go. It's so interesting that is a very specific, not just to Canada, but a lot of our favorite bands have this same kind of lineup. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting. I've never thought about it in terms of if it is a Canadian thing or not. But all those bands you mentioned, great keyboards.
Yeah. I mean, just on the strong point of having that extra melody factor in so many bands, that was maybe really important in a certain time frame too, when keyboards really got good, even though the more organic, whirlies and organs and stuff in the 60s and 70s, but in the 80s. And I think all those things that you kind of brought into some big hit songs, for me, the first Honeymoon Suite record, when I heard it, those were some really great parts that they kind of hold their own today. I don't think there's a lot of, sonically where it's something like they all sort of, there was a lot of texture and a lot of cool parts and a lot of somebody put thought into the sounds, which obviously was you, and making a colorscape to those cool tunes.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for one, and I'm big on sounds. When I'm doing a Sideman gig, I'm pretty crazy about it. Like I will just go at it until I like to joke that if I learn a record, I'll learn it closer than the record. So my joke claim to fame, but I am really into that, and a lot of it has to do with just honoring. If it's not something that's my record, honoring those great records. And I've been so lucky because all those bands you mentioned that I played with, they were all fantastic. The artists and the bands, I've been incredibly fortunate. And the music was great. And you have to honor that. You have to really get down and leave no stone unturned. So I really am about that. I'm a bit crazy like that, though. Really, I've been known to spend weeks on bars, on like a few bars.
You really can spend a lot of time in keyboard land. Like I know myself when I'm doing productions in the studio here, I can have guitar, bass, and sort of a programmed drum for a demo thing in like half a day. And it's like, some keyboards might be nice in this. And then you're just like paging through sounds. This one, samples, this one. And you can go like a whole week just trying to find that perfect sound.
Yeah. Well, I usually make them. I mean,
okay.
You often will start with a preset, but pretty much any sound you hear, if you hear me playing in Roger's gig or any of those gigs, it's, I mean, the organ sounds may be presets that you tweak, and the piano sounds may be presets that you tweak, but the synth stuff, I make it. I like to make it. And that comes from the old school. That comes from, a mini Moog is a great laboratory. You learn what an oscillator is and a filter. And, and I'm really grateful that I am of a certain vintage, old enough that, I came up with that. And a lot of younger cats, 10 years later, whatever, they came along when digital was happening, and they missed out on that,
That brings up a good point, and somebody is asking the same question. What were your influences growing up? I mean, it's one thing, we've talked a lot to, rock guitar players, singers, and obviously there's the staples. So what were your influences growing up? Who influenced you into songwriting and as a keyboardist?
My influences I was, again, so lucky because my brothers were really hip. They had great taste. They had great record collections. And when I was a really little kid, the house was full of, Beatles, Zeppelin, Stones, Doors, Jethro Tull, Genesis, all that shit. Yes. So all of that stuff was what I was weaned on. Which is good stuff. It's a good. Some guys like a lot of keyboard players. In fact, most keyboard players I think are educated. They've studied music. They've studied jazz classical. Sure. I couldn't read it. I couldn't read a note to save my life. So I learned from those records. And really, I think if I have anything that sets me apart as a keyboard player is that really I'm a guitar player and a drummer, a frustrated guitar player and a drummer on the inside. So yeah, all those bands were my favorites. As far as keyboard players go, in no particular order, Keith Emerson, of course, Terry Watkinson of Max Webster.
Wow. Oh yeah.
Terry Watkinson is so brilliant, such a genius. Just incredible. Rick Wakeman was great. Chicoria, stuff like that. But I'll tell you, my two people ask me my favorite keyboard players. Two of my favorite keyboard players are Pete Townsend and Paul McCartney.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Think about that.
You don't think about that stuff.
Think about who's next and all that great keyboard shit. And Paul McCartney, Let It Be, Hey Jude. I mean, that to me is the real deal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really interesting because when you say that, the inventiveness of, say, Townsend when he started messing around with synthesizers and stuff and really kind of creating, it does create a whole other thing. Because often, you can sort of do almost anything once you get into the world of keyboards and start creating these new sounds. Did you ever kind of get into like sort of the more, when it's the industrial stuff, or say the synth pop thing started to introduce itself, Depeche Mode, that kind of stuff, when it started to be really heavy synthesizer stuff? Or were you always into kind of more organic music per se?
I would say more organic. I wasn't into really Depeche Mode. I feel uncool, because everyone's into Depeche Mode or whatever. I wasn't one of them. It was more the organic. Which one of you guys is barking?
I'm gonna fix that. I'll be right back.
You can just mute your mic, Fitz. Just mute your mic for now.
It's good to just hear a dog. I'm so starved for dog love, and it's just good to hear a dog.
Yeah, for sure.
I know what you mean.
Ray, curious. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Shane.
Without my last question, though, one thing I did get into is that I do. Brent had mentioned some of the audio visual stuff I do. So I have a thing called Smash Hitly, which is a one man thing, which consists of me and two beautiful go-go dancers. That's the deal in a big screen.
Cool.
So with that, I got a little more into the technical, the kind of it wasn't tech. It wasn't techno, but I went down there a little bit. That's the extent.
What are your thoughts on keyboard? Go ahead.
If you join our band, will you bring the go-go dancers with you?
Sure. I will.
The two cats?
That's what I got to do to get in. Then yeah, I'll do it.
We did talk about this though, because Todd and I and yourself, we did a gig in Ontario in 2014 together.
Right.
And you were with Kim Mitchell.
Great.
And we did Flash and Aerosmith, and it was a big day. But I know we had a good hang backstage. And if I recall, we had discussed, and this was before we were Toque official, but we had been doing gigs under the umbrella of Toque. And I think we kind of discussed if we were to get a keyboard player, you were already in the pipeline.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but I was trying to work it that day with you, Brent.
Yeah. I already talked to Todd about it.
Yeah. And like Shane, I remember Shane. I mean, Shane and I have just met now, happily. But like I said, a couple of years ago, he posted something. And I was just like, I just sent a message. I was like, I have to be involved in this. I must insist. So, and I got to say, you guys band, like Toque is just so cool. It's amazing. And I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
It's great.
If you do, Ray, I just want to say it's going to, as talented as you are, there's going to be a cape involved. You're going to have the keyboard player. That full Greg Giuffria from Angel kind of, Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman thing, that whole thing.
I hope you never see a picture, but I had a coat which was pretty much a cape at one time in Honeymoon Suite, and it didn't last long, thankfully. And I hope it was pretty bad.
I remember Roger Manning from Jellyfish used to have this they kind of look like the Gene Simmons 70s bat wings, but he would play with that, and it looked ridiculously awesome. You're like,
he pulled it off because he's crazy, right?
Really
not to divert, but I'm still curious without getting too geeky. Like I'm noticing back there, I'm not seeing a B3 or anything, but I'm assuming you can do everything you need on that rig that's set up behind you, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I can do anything on that rig. In fact, it's a little redundant. I could do anything with a little less than that. Although, there is nothing like a real B, but I can make it sound pretty much.
I'm curious to know what it is you use. I mean, I'm like an Omnisphere MIDI keyboard player. Like, wow, that sounds amazing. What if I do this? But is there some software stuff that soft synths that you prefer or you use, or I'm sure you have everything, but
no, I don't. You know what? My way of being old school with all this digital gear is that I don't use soft synths. I am a hardware guy.
Interesting.
I've gone there. I've checked some stuff out. I don't know. I don't believe I've ever had to use any. So no, I'm about the tactile. It's old school. It's as old school as you can get with new gear. So that's what I'm really about. As much as there's so much great software stuff out there.
No, I'm sure like anything, as much as you want to stay authentic, technology has made it just so convenient to have this new stuff, which is so much easier to move around and obviously, easier to travel with for sure. So.
Right. Totally. It's true. But, there's nothing like, there's nothing like a Les Paul. There's nothing like a B3, whatever. I wish I had a B back there, Shane. But I don't.
I bet your neighbors are happy you don't have a B3 back.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, for sure. But it's good. With that stuff, I can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
The technology.
I want to ask about Roger Hodgson because my earliest influences and exposure to pop music was definitely Supertramp and ABBA and Neil Diamond, everything that my uncles and my dad had in the record collection. So I'm curious to know, do you get to play whirly sounds with Roger?
In our show, Raj is doing all the whirly stuff.
Okay, I thought so.
Actually, I do a couple of little things where he's playing guitar, but it's funny about Raj, man. That guy. And by the way, I mentioned my brothers and their influence, or whatever. Supertramp. It's so crazy that I got to play with Roger, because Supertramp really is in my DNA and musical DNA. And when my brother's music was my music, thankfully, but Supertramp was the first one that I kind of really latched onto all on my own. And Crime of the Century came out in September '74. I know that because I just looked it up yesterday, and I was 11 years old, and I got into it probably about a year after, and it just instantly, it just became a part of me. That music, it's so good.
So good.
Part of why we do this show too is a lot of people are listening, and you guys are talking, and we sometimes get a little too in depth, and assuming that everybody knows. But can you describe what that process is? Somebody's saying, what whirly is?
What a whirly is!
Oh, come on, Laurie, get in the game. Just kidding.
A whirly is the Wurlitzer piano, classic, of course, probably made most famous by Supertramp, but on so many great old R&B soul records. It's like a Fender Rhodes. If you don't know what a whirly is, you probably don't know what a Fender Rhodes is. It's
electric piano.
It's an electric piano, which instead of having strings like a piano, it's got these little tines in it. So it's like a mini xylophone inside. But yeah, amazing instruments, very expressive.
So if everybody knows the song Dreamer, all that piano that happens in behind that you hear, that's a whirly. And that's
a whirly, yes.
It's all over Supertramp stuff.
Yes, it's all over Supertramp stuff, and Bloody Well Right and all that. And I have to say, Roger plays that stuff like no one, like if anyone could duplicate exactly what he's doing, I think I could do it. But I don't think anyone can duplicate. Like, it's insane. I mean, Roger's so good. Roger is just so frighteningly good. And like on the guitar, his singing, of course. But when he's doing that whirly stuff, man, it's I'm shaking my head as I'm talking about it.
What a gift.
Not good. Yeah.
Hey, how does that gig come about? Because when we're talking about all the Corey Hart, Partland Brothers, all these different gigs that you've done, I'm like, okay, this all makes sense to me as far as like, we're all Canadian, you live in the Toronto area, these gigs sort of present themselves. And then Roger comes along and I kind of go, okay, now how did this happen? I know, what's your connection to Roger and where's Roger? Is he still based out of England, or where is Roger?
No, Roger's been in the States for a long time. He's based in California and Florida.
Okay.
So my connection to Roger was Kevin Adamson, who was my predecessor and who's my friend and a great keyboard player and a great singer.
Is he Canadian?
He's Canadian. He's a Toronto boy.
Is. Okay.
Yep. So Kevin, I guess a year or so before he decided to leave, he had called me and asked me about subbing in on a South American tour. Pardon me, because he and his then new wife, they wanted to start a family, and his doctor said, don't go down there right now because of Zika. You guys remember. So Kevin, said, would you be interested? And I was like, hell yeah, I'd be interested. So I sent some stuff.
Now, just to be clear, Zika is the evil overlord in Scientology. Is that correct? Anybody?
Zika. Actually, Jesus, that would be.
It sounds similar to
go.
No, I think that guy's name is just Ron.
Yeah.
Elron.
Okay. Elron Ziku. Sorry. Go carry on.
Well, the connection was Kevin Adamson. So he asked me if I'd be into that, and so we went there, and in the end, Roger ended up getting an LA guy to do it. It was a short. I think it was maybe 3 weeks or something. And then when Kevin decided to leave, I guess, I was already, on Roger's radar. And then, again, me being super fortunate, some people in his orbit said, you should call this guy. He'd be the guy to get. So there was no prior connection.
It is funny how It is funny how when you sub for a gig, you are immediately like the guy that will get the call if the guy you're subbing for decides to step down. It's just a weird
Always
thing.
true.
So you always have to be careful about who you sub yourself out for, because that guy, you know,
Absolutely,
he might be not as annoying as I am, and the next thing you know, that guy's coming in.
Well,
No, but Kevin, you know,
Kevin
Kevin even said that. I mean, Kevin's a sweet guy, and you know, he said, "I realized that, you know, exactly what you said, Todd. I realized that when you sub a gig out, you know, you may lose the gig." And to be honest, I was, you know, the Roger gig was on my radar, obviously for obvious reasons, for a long time. And if it had not been Kevin, if it had been some guy I didn't know and didn't, you know, wasn't a beautiful cat, I might have made a few calls earlier. But
Yeah, there you go.
But
Yeah.
Kevin,
Didn't you
Kevin's
sub
a
out a
great
few
guy.
gigs for Brent last tour?
Yeah.
Shane subbed for Brent on that tour last. You know, what was that? A couple
Yeah,
years ago,
I know. I know.
Yeah, Seems
like a couple years ago now.
Did you guys? What happened there? Did you guys work that out?
It's it's the power of the referral, but that's the same thing. Is we're all friends here in Toque, and it's ironic but not ironic that two members who are regularly in the band and two members from this band who also subbed in the band. So
I know.
there it is, Ray. It's just the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And isn't it great when you don't know you're going to get a call for a big gig, but it usually comes from a referral. Like the audition is less than the you know, someone, you know, telling someone how great you are, and you don't even know that you're going to get a call about a Roger Hodgson gig, right?
Right.
Well, there's a lot of power to the vouch. You know, if you vouch for somebody, and this is part of the, you have to be careful who you vouch for, because we vouch for the guy, great, and he's great, but you didn't know he had that terrible drinking problem or whatever it is. But so yeah,
Right.
So that's part of the thing. But I mean, when it, you know, in almost every,
It's the
if you
Donnie
respect
Brasco
them,
scenario, right? Because if it backfires, you're the one that pay the price.
Right.
exactly. You vouch for him, yeah. Because if you vouch for somebody, I assume if it's anybody here that I'm looking at, if you guys said you should get this guy, I would just assume he's the guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't probably listen to him or whatever. But I'm sure the 3 weeks in South America was pretty much your trial by fire, and I'm sure you came out the other side.
No,
and Roger
I didn't
was
do
like,
the 3 weeks though.
"Oh, you didn't do it? That's right.
No,
That's right."
So no, that put me on Roger's radar. But in the end, you know, I don't know why he went with the other cat, but he did. And the other guy wasn't really like a rock musician like we are. He was more of a studio guy, and I think he does a lot of film stuff. So I don't know if it was as good a fit as myself or Kevin. Clearly,
frankly, I'll be that guy. He wasn't a good fit because he's not there. You're there. See there. That's how that works. Yeah.
I guess so.
Brian is asking one of our viewers, and he's asking, what was it like? Were you nervous first time you played? You know, is it how do you step into a gig like that? I mean, obviously you had been doing a lot of things beforehand, but what was it like the first time you played with Roger?
The playing is the easy part, and it's always been that way with me. And you know, here's another thing: as a keyboardist, if it's a keyboard heavy gig, it takes a lot to get together. And you know, I want to say more than perhaps guitar or drum or bass, because you're making sounds. There's just so much stuff, right? And it's coming from all over. So yeah, when it finally happened, I knew I was going to do it. I was just, I went crazy working on it. Like I almost killed myself working on it. And then I went to Belgium and we started rehearsals. But what I was going to say is that rehearsals are the hard part. Getting on stage is the easy part. Like rehearsals, I went to Belgium and here I was all of a sudden far from home with, I didn't know anyone there. It was a bunch of people. I did not know any of them. And thankfully they turned out to all be really beautiful people. But that was hard. And, it was a big adjustment for Roger because Kevin had been with him for a long time. Kevin and the original sax player, Aaron, had been with Roger since he started having a band again. And so it was a huge adjustment for Roger. And I think, it was kind of freaking him out a bit. Sure. Me and Michael came along, Michael, the sax player, and we are different animals than the other two guys. So it took a bit of happening, but you know what? when you hit the stage, that's the easy part, because everything in your life, the adrenaline, but just everything you've done, every hour you spent in the basement or whatever, it's easy when you hit the stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to backpedal a little bit, our buddy Andrew here had the reason. You were wondering why, maybe he, decided to go with somebody else at the time other than yourself. And I think here.
The other guy.
That's a very smart guy right there, Andrew Treadwell. He knows
Nice
the power of the cape.
Andrew, I thought I told you.
So in case you were wondering, I mean that you can stop banging your head against the wall wondering why.
Yeah.
Do you have next week you're going to have like a Lando Calrissian closet full of capes? I know it.
That's right. It's true. Oh God, could you see me in a cape now with my big bald head?
Gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Jesus,
Ray.
It could be a big Canadian flag.
Yeah,
and a headset.
Yeah,
and a headset. You got a headset.
Yeah.
How about American Bandstand? You had a good look that day. Maybe that was sunglasses. Maybe there's a precursor for your Corey Hart working with him. But I thought you got the most cheers when Dick Clark introduced you on American Bandstand.
You actually saw that? You actually,
of course,
footage.
I used to love that. It was very rare to see Canadian bands that I knew on American Bandstand. First time I saw Chilliwack was on American Bandstand. Before I actually heard the band, I saw My Girl.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I saw you guys and Brian Adams. I remember. I think Loverboy too. But right. I love how Dick Clark would go around and quickly talk to everybody in the band. But when he introduced you, there was a little bit more. It sounded like a little female. Woo! You go watch that.
That's because he had the sample on his keyboard.
Well, that's good to know.
Good luck.
Every time you get introduced.
Bolstering my ego.
You got the Beatles 1962 sample.
Yeah.
You can't find the footage from the performance, though. You can only find the interview stuff. That's so weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all clipped from YouTube. You can't go see, the songs. You can only see the interviews, but it's up there on YouTube too. Anyway,
that's so cool that you did Dick Clark, though. That's such a connection to like that whole next level of what that was. Yeah.
Was that your first gig in LA? Like that tour, which was what, Jethro Tull and you guys?
Yeah, which speaking of thrilling things, I was weaned on Jethro Tull, so a very unlikely matchup, Honeymoon Suite opening for Jethro Tull, but we opened on our first record on their whole North American tour, except Toronto.
Really?
That is really interesting. Yeah.
It was, for me, I mean, if you were to ask me what's, the highlight, it's hard to say one, but that's undoubtedly one of them. And we did like 30 shows with them, probably around 30 shows. And I always, every night, went out and watched the whole show. It was just so good. And then to get to know them, to get to know them and be friends with them, and just hang, small chat, whatever. One time we were playing at the Buffalo Odd, and I would always, go in the day and like grab a keyboard and go in the dressing room and play. And one day Ian Anderson walked in accidentally and started to it's like, oh, sorry, and then started to leave, and then he came back in and just started telling me this story. And I don't remember what the story was, but it was just incredible. It's like, here's this guy telling me this funny story, and it's just he and I, and it was a thrill.
Wow. Yeah. Ian Anderson's daughter, strangely enough, is married to Andrew Lincoln from the Walking Dead, the actor Andrew Lincoln. His daughter is, I just watched this. There's a great series on Amazon. It's what's his name? Norman Reedus has a motorcycle show where he just rides motorcycles and does stuff. And one he does with Andrew, and they end up at Ian's castle or whatever, and it was this really crazy moment. Why is he there? And it's his Andrew's wife. It was a very interesting thing to see because because we know the connection when it comes to guys like Ian. It's like those are that royalty level of that English rock and roll thing.
Absolutely.
About the thing. How cool that led to the record following, and you guys had Ian on your record.
That's right.
We had Ian on our second record. Yeah. So talk about
so
cool.
Crazy.
He I think one of us asked why why don't you play on more people's records? And he said, because people never ask me. Unbelievably. He said, no, and then no one ever asks me. So shortly after, though, he also played on, I think, was it Men Without Hats?
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Wow. He played on another Canadian band after ours, yeah.
So if he played on your record, you would have been, that's the record you did with Bruce Fairburn and Bob Rock, right?
That's right.
So was he, did he, well, all those records are real important. I know Corey and I are big fans of The Big Prize. Probably one of my favorite songs of all time, all of them on that record, but, Feel It Again. But so All Along You Knew was the track that Ian did, but how did that happen? He comes to Vancouver or?
No, actually, how that happened was that both the first two records were mixed at the Farmyard in England, really famous place. It was Rupert Hines' studio, essentially.
Ah, cool.
Well, he was the main guy. I mean, all those great Saga records were made there. The Fix, a lot of great stuff. And it was such a great place. It was just like maybe a 45-minute train ride out of London, and it was a farm, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful old farmhouse and this great studio. So both of our records were mixed there, and Ian came in at the last minute during the mixing on The Big Prize, and I actually wasn't there. I was there for the first mixing session, and then Johnny and Derry went back, and Bruce and Bob, and that's when Ian did his thing. So I wasn't actually in the studio, but that was, what a thrill.
Did Bob mix The Big Prize?
Well, no, I mean, wait a second. Did Steven Taylor mix the record? Steven Taylor, I thought, mixed our first record. I should know this. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer, but I can say that he and Bruce were. I mean,
it'll probably
about
come up in the comments any second now. So
someone will be.
I've watched a few really great Bob Rock interviews lately because he's actually been a little more vocal, publicly and telling stories and whatnot.
Right.
And, I've been down so many rabbit holes with these great, podcasts, and he's talked about. It seems like that record, the Honeymoon Suite, The Big Prize record, was important because, well, obviously you worked with the duo of Bruce Fairburn and Bob Rock, but that was pre-Slippery When Wet. The Bon Jovi record they did.
Immediately before Slippery When Wet. In fact, I remember that right before I left the band the first time in '86, we were playing at Expo in Vancouver, and Bob and Bruce came out, and Bruce was saying, or I think Bruce came out anyway, and he was saying, yeah, the guys in Bon Jovi really dig your record, and they also have a song that's got, the line Shot Through the Heart, whatever, because we had a song with that lyric that Johnny wrote. So it was immediately
how's that lawsuit coming now?
Yeah. And I think that probably the Bon Jovi record. Well, wait a second. Yeah, Bruce did Bruce do the Bon Jovi record too?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I think that was probably the last time they were a team, perhaps.
I think so. I think Bob did his own thing after that. Yeah,
right.
He did say that the Bon Jovi guys really honed in on that record you guys did and really liked it.
He did, eh?
He absolutely said it was an important record for those guys. They wanted their stuff to sound like yours. So, I mean,
cool.
And I do listen to my favorite records, on and off over and over. And I always come back to that record. I mean, I love even Monsters in the Closet was great too. But I think that record, because people who might know of Bon Jovi and might not, maybe people, sorry, dogs, but we got lots of, fans around the world who might not have heard, some of those records. But if anyone's watching and listening and knows we did, obviously, New Girl Now, one of your songs from the first record. But that record is so good. That's a great sounding record.
It is.
Yeah. And that's a great tune. I mean, I think it's probably my favorite Honeymoon Suite song right there.
It's funny, that's a good example of like how you can jam though. And I remember back in the day when I was playing in bands, we would play, say, New Girl Now. And when you play New Girl Now without the keyboard parts, it's a cool tune. Like it's really more rock, kind of straight guitar rock. But now we would all talk about that in this group alone. Without your parts, even the addition of that piano, kind of, just in that second verse, that's sort of like real tension. It was like that just lifts that whole section, So it really says something about that layering and that sort of like the spices and cherry on top of what the keyboards really can do within the context of a
and it's
pop
amazing
rock and roll song.
Amazing how infectious that is too, because you'll hear people when a lot of times people will, when it's there and it's complete, they just walk through it, but you notice it when it's missing. So
when it's missing, exactly.
You guys are a perfect example of that, obviously doing a lot of songs that require keyboards, and of course you're playing them and you're making do and you're doing what you have to do. But yeah, sometimes those songs, those are the parts, those are the ones that, those are the ones that are ingrained in your brain that, when you hear them and you hear them again without, you just know that something's different.
Something's not right.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, that's a a compliment to all the parts. I mean, like you said, especially in that era of music where it was such, and like you said, follow up to Bon Jovi, another keyboard heavy band, and some of those songs like your own, it's just you can't do them without. It's just one of those.
Bon Jovi is the American equivalent of the front guy, guitar player, bass player, drummer, keyboard player.
Yeah,
it's like it's just the classic thing.
Todd. It's funny because early on, before Bon Jovi became so big, we were kind of in very similar orbits. Johnny, both singers are Johnny. There was a lot of similarities there, and they were on our radar. I don't know if we were on their radar at the time, but it was really like, you're right. We were like the Canadian, or they were the American Honeymoon Suite. We were the Canadian Bon Jovi, whatever. And then, Slippery When Wet happened. And
do you think, thinking of that, do you think Johnny D should have made pasta sauce like John Bon Jovi has? Never mind.
Should have what?
Say that again?
John Bon Jovi has a pasta sauce now. I don't know if you guys know that.
Oh, no.
Maybe
we gotta go back. Is it a pasta sauce or a
pasta sauce? Pasta sauce. Exactly.
Pasta.
Maybe
Johnny D should have. He really missed an opportunity there. And
again, we can't make we continue to make assumptions. To anybody listening, "Slippery When Wet" was an album released by Bon Jovi. In case you didn't know that, you got to go back and check that out. Yeah,
it's a good record. It's a real underground. You got to search for it. You really got
a lot of deep cuts. A lot of deep cuts.
Yeah.
On who?
Bon who?
Let's talk about
the critics liked it, but didn't.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Get a good response.
100%.
Let's talk about it's because John's so ugly. I think that was.
Yeah, he was just so ugly. Yeah.
That hair. Oh, that hair. Let's talk about "Feel It Again" because you wrote that song. Yeah. Right. I mean, it probably is my favorite Honeymoon Suite song, up there with "Burning in Love." I love those two songs.
Thank you.
And actually, I want to ask you another question based on that. Like, what keyboard did you use on the beginning of "Burning in Love"? It's
an Oberheim OBSX.
Okay, fantastic. Such a great sound. And once again, like Darren was saying, that is totally the signature of that song. When you hear that, before anything else happens, people go nuts. I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They do, and I have to say that Derry, that was Derry's idea. He was like, do this, do a blah blah blah, and so that really did come from Derry.
Good call. So anyway, going over to "Feel It Again" now, because you wrote that without any other input. How did that come about? And was that a song you had back in your catalog from before, or was it just like, I'm going to write a song for the new album, and here it is?
No, I wrote it for the new album, and when I first joined Honeymoon Suite, which is early on, like we were a cover band. It was very early on. We were a cover band, we had an eye. We wanted to become a recording band, but we were playing week-long gigs at this Queen's Hotel in this town and this Queen's Hotel in this town, whatever. Derry had already been in songwriting for a while, and he's a bit older than I am. He's a few years older than I, when the whole thing came together, I had written music since I started playing music when I was like 9 or 10 years old, but that experience, the Honeymoon Suite experience, really tuned me into songwriting. And when I first joined, not too long after, man, Derry just started going at it and like turning these songs out. and most of which ended up being our first record. And that was both inspiring and educational for me. But I mean, I had my own thing going on too. But in terms of making it a succinct pop song, that was something that I learned over the course of pre-first album, then first album, and then going into the second album. So no, I just would go in the rehearsal hall every day alone, and it just, the great ones just come out. They come out of you. It's like Roger says that too. If you try and compliment Roger on his songs, he'll say, well, they just came through me. And I've heard so many people say that, right?
This may be the answer you're looking for to the previous question. I don't know if there's truth to this, but we're going with Graham's answer here.
Oh wow, okay. Garth was involved. I don't remember Garth's name being on there. Cool. Wow.
Okay, so Big Prize was mixed by Stephen Taylor. Thank you, Graham. So Fairbairn with Rock and Fraser. Yes, of course, Mike Fraser. And Garth Richardson was involved in the first record as well, because he was at Phase One. He did some stuff on the first record. And was he involved in the second record? Maybe your audience can tell me that.
Exactly.
I mean, Garth and Derry and Dave Bett.
And Attila wants to say hi. He's telling me, he's like, hey, include your guests. So here he is.
And there's Attila Demjen, my childhood friend who was one time drummer for Lee Aaron, among other things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wow.
So anyway, Garth. Hey, buddy, how are you? Garth goes back to Dave Betts, Derry, and Garth and many other people go back to Fanshawe College, so they knew each other from
right. Yeah.
So feel again, I made beginner's luck, whatever. I wrote it, and I basically, the song as you know it is as I wrote it. The lyrics, all the melodies, and the parts, with a few important exceptions, and back to Bob Rock and back to Bruce Fairbairn and Bob Rock, because I wrote it with a short first chorus, like a half chorus, which I like to do. I like the half chorus, and then get to the verse. But I remember Bruce saying, and Bob too, we think that we've got this whole intro kind of spacey thing, and by the time we get to the first chorus, man, you just gotta hit it, and so make it the full chorus. So that was, I believe, an edit. I think we recorded it.
Oh, interesting.
The first chorus, I believe, we recorded as a short chorus, and then it was edited. I believe that's the case. The other thing, a couple of other cool things about those cats. I mean, again, just such great fortune to get to work with them, and Bob's a great guy, and Bruce was just such a beautiful guy. The Bob Rock
back to confirm.
Graham Tucson for the win.
Graham,
thank you, Graham.
Man, you're killing me here.
Additional recording at Phase One in Toronto with Garth and Bill.
Of course. Okay, there you go. That's the piece of the puzzle. Thanks, Graham. Owe you one.
Wow. Graham, you're the best.
So the thing that, Feel Again is very much how I wrote it, and it's funny because Johnny, that vocal is written by a guy who wasn't a singer. Okay, so me, and and Johnny, at various times would say, it's like, fuck, man, your vocals are your lines or your melodies are so weird. It's so hard to do it, but God love him, because, man, he would do it. He's like, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And he would make it right. You know what I mean? He would make it his own, which was amazing. But Bob Rock,
it's a pretty defining vocal for Johnny. It's a great vocal. It's one of his best, if you ask me.
Vocal. Yeah, for sure.
And it's so interesting because that song has so much tension in the verses. You're like, where is the key, the tonal center? Where's the key center? I can't really find it. And then that's what makes the chorus so much special, is that, okay, now we're rooted in where the tonal center is of the song.
And it's interesting. It's interesting when you talk about them saying, when the chorus kind of, by the second time through the chorus, when it doubles up, is the introduction of that second vocal, the that thing, and you're just like, whoa! It's just like going, like, taking it over the top.
Who sings that? Really, which I want to hear you sing, Todd. By the way, when I join the band, when I get a wig and join the band,
I'd love it. Who sings that? Who sings that on the original recording? Is that Johnny twice?
Johnny,
right?
But one of the two things I was just going to mention about Bob Rock. Your timing is great. Bob Rock, Johnny sang that, and then Bob Rock sampled it. And back then, we didn't, samplers were early, but there was was it the Lexicon that could sample, could do like a, 2-3 second sample or something. So Johnny, hit that killer line, probably as just a one-off, just as an ad-lib. And then Bob was just like, holy shit, that's great. So Bob went back and like put that in. Wow. That is my recollection of it. So that was a really huge contribution. Another great Bob Rock contribution was that I wrote it just with a kind of static bass part, just pumping the changes. And I remember as clear as a bell standing in the studio. And when we were doing the bass tracks, and Gary was doing the bass tracks, and Bob was like, why don't you try that? Why don't you try a Bryan Adams, like this time, boo, right? And that bass line makes it, go, 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 right? It's so good. So, hooray, Bob Rock.
Yeah. The bridge is strong too when the keyboards are pulsing. And you did the Feel It Again. Was that the sample in the bridge too?
It sounds like it.
I think so. I mean, I think so, which is not to say, I don't know. I mean, Johnny, I'm not saying that he only sang it once. He may have done it more than once, but I really recall Bob latching onto that great, that great high vocal and making it an even more important part. So
it's definitely
it's too bad. It's too bad Bob didn't capitalize on those kind of things and make a real career for himself after that. Never heard of him again. Never heard from him again.
Amazing to think that he would have recorded that sample and you would have had to roll the tape, and then you would have had to been like, okay, go.
Like pressing a button on a rack. Yeah.
Amazing. Real time.
Ah, shit, that didn't work. Let's try it again. Go.
Right.
And then
I believe that, Kane. I believe that's exactly what it was.
Okay, so we've talked about how great that song is, but what happened with the video?
I liked it.
What do you mean?
What's the matter with the video? Are you telling me that video hits video? You got a problem with that? Watching that video hits video after school?
Well,
come on.
I know there was good intentions with the video, and it was like probably cutting edge at the time, but
I think it was the first green screen video.
Right.
It was.
It's really amazing.
The Cars video. If ours wasn't the first, the Cars, you may think I'm crazy, was the first, but I think maybe ours was the first. So it was early on. We shot in LA. It was all just a one-day shoot, and what can I say? You're standing watching me, looking at me naked and embarrassed.
It's that same green screen you have behind you now.
Exactly. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way.
No
I have been really humiliated for a while. So
it's kind of the time.
It wasn't your fault.
And it was shortly after that.
I have to say, by the way,
Haywire did the same thing, right? They did a one kind of after that with the green screen and all the tech stuff too.
Who's that?
Another Haywire.
Did they?
Yeah. What was the name of that song?
Drop the needle.
No, it was the one you said was your favorite song last week, Corey.
Oh,
name's escaping me. No, that was a little earlier.
Well, let's be honest. Luckily, none of us have ever done anything embarrassing that's caught on film or music videos.
That's right.
Haircuts or pants. I mean, I have no regrets.
It's a show of success. The fact that you actually are captured on camera back then, because like they say, I mean, most of us have nothing to worry about because there was no camera in your face back then. But the fact that you were means that it was it was a sign of the times, and it was great. I mean, a lot of people watching and a lot of people.
The technology's changed so much that these kind of things, what we accept as like acceptable as far as technology goes now. Back then, that kind of stuff was super cutting edge. I don't think anybody really questioned what it was.
It wasn't comedy. Yeah, it wasn't comedy back then. Like people, and I will say,
no irony at all.
Which is hard to believe now when you look at it, and probably for anyone of a not of our vintage. And I say our as in Honeymoon Suite's vintage, because I think you cats are all a little younger than I. I just turned 58.
You look amazing.
Thank you. Fantastic. The thing about that video, last thing I will mention, I will blow our horn, because when I was when I joined Corey, my first gig with Corey, I had never met Corey.
Corey Hart we're talking about. Yeah.
Corey Hart, yes. I was
Yes.
hired over the phone, and it was just like, okay, we're doing the Joan Rivers show. You remember when Joan Rivers first got her show? She was going to take
Fox.
the heir apparent to the Tonight Show, and then the last minute, Fox gave her a shitload of money. So it was really in the first few months of that. So it was still a big deal. And talk about nerve-wracking. Flew to LA, checked in at Sunset Marquee, met Corey. We went to SIR. We rehearsed for, maybe an hour, a couple hours, maybe. Wow. And then, just went and did the show the next day. I was shitting my pants, man. It was crazy. But when I was in LA during that time, MTV was just still fairly young, was doing their all-time top 100, and Feel It Again was in there. So
cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
What song were you doing with Corey on Joan Rivers?
We were doing the Elvis song.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Can't help falling in love.
Yeah. So it was myself and Russ Boswell, incredible bassist from Toronto. It was just he and Corey and myself, and which made me shit my pants even more because it's not like you've got a full band going, and it was out in the open. I got through it okay. Yeah.
I'm sure you did amazing. That's great. That's so cool.
You know what? We've taken up a lot of your time here this week, and we just need to finish off with a couple of things. One, anybody watching, I mean, we are starting this year out with a bang. We've got, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, do so now. Like the page. You mentioned you're 58. We just have to know, what's your take on artificial lawn?
Well, it would go well with a cape, I think.
Yes.
Hey, Shane, get a fake lawn and a cape, then you'd be like that. The really neighborhood eccentric.
I didn't know it was such a big thing. Artificial lawns. That's crazy.
Well,
I like how we spent like the first 20 minutes talking about lawns. Yeah.
I mean, Shane does have.
We've all spent a lot of time, secluded over this last couple of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shane does have quite a big lawn, so I can see why he wants to get rid of it. But you'll get so much.
Rid of it. It was just a thought.
Okay. I mean, you should go towards more of a native landscape. You'll get more hummingbirds. You'll get more butterflies and all that kind of stuff.
And you're the guy to know that, right, Corey? Because you're totally into that.
Anybody else has an opinion, leave it in the comments. Again, Ray, we want to thank you for coming on the show. Been a blast. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Hope 2021 allows us all to do the things that we love, and hope to see you out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everybody want to thank you for tuning in. It's been a great time. And again, like I said, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, YouTube, and like the page on Facebook. And we're trying to open up things for 2021 and bring this as often as we can every Tuesday. So we'll be back here. And do we know who's coming with us next week, or are we gonna?
It's a goodie. Keith Scott from Bryan Adams.
Oh, there you go. That is a goodie.
He wins because if you can take two first names and create your name, that's really always the win. I think that's
Absolutely.
Well, I've often been told you never trust somebody with two first names.
It always seems a little made up, if you ask me, frankly.
Yeah, exactly.
In vogue, though. It's in vogue.
Exactly.
It's like one of those guys that you just never really know if it's a real name. Every 80s guitar player that had a band with like Mike Michaels, it's like, two first names. You never trust a guy. So we'll see how he plays out.
Keith Scott's one of my favorite guitar players. It's going to be awesome. That'd be great.
God. That guy is as good as it gets. Yeah. So good.
He's the best. He says a lot he's total slow hand, says a lot with and he says it exactly right. It's never about like whittle, whittle, whittle. He's doing a lot. Yeah.
That guy's scary good. Anyway, guys, I'm a huge fan of your band. So thank you for having me on. And really, I'll get a wig if I have to join you. I will do it if I have to. Only for you guys.
Just the cape.
Just the cape. But again, before we go, because
I'll go cape shopping next week.
Here's the thing. We got time for just this one last question, and then we'll let you go. We know that a lot of people come on the show, and actually we've had guests on the show that even after an hour and a half didn't even know these guys were a band.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, it is true.
Really?
Sebastian
You,
Bach.
of course.
Sebastian Bach still doesn't know that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. He's still the TikTok, it's like, but no, but I think it was Lips from Anvil after an hour and a half. I said, so these guys are a band. He's like, you guys are a band? What kind of music do you hear?
Wow. Well,
you of course, not only being a great lover of Canadian music and of course musician, know these guys. If you were to pick a song that already hasn't been done, what would be your take on that? Is there? I mean, we always look for ideas and suggestions.
for you cats, geez, and it's got to be Canadian, of course. Well, I would say a Max Webster song. It has to be a Max Webster song. I mean,
I was going to suggest
greatest bands ever in the history of. Well, you know what? I think Max Webster is one of the greatest bands ever. Do a Max Webster song. Do On the Road or fuck. There's so many good ones.
That would be great.
I love Let Go of the Line. Let go of the line.
Oh yeah, totally. Terry Watkinson.
Did you? And you have to pick one with like a massive keyboard part. So
with the keyboards, yeah, exactly. So Ray can play the keyboards on it, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to hold you to it, man. I'm holding you guys.
How about In the World of Giants, man? Isn't that Unison in the World of Giants? The solo? Think so.
That's a great song, dude.
Keyboard Unison.
Yeah, no, it's not Unison. I don't think it's Unison. I think it's just Kim.
How about that part?
Oh no! I'm thinking of something else. I don't know. You know better than I.
We don't need the keyboards because we got Shane Gallus's voice. So we can just do that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
By the way,
he's still stuck in Bill and Ted mode there.
You guys, you all play 10 instruments better than any of the rest of us can play one, and I think that's got to stop. Do us all a favor and spread some of it around, okay?
I appreciate that, Ray. I don't know if that's true.
Wait, one second.
Thank you.
I can't let you go. So the Max Webster connection, there had to have been. You must have seen Max Webster at Key to Bala when your parents were involved. Yes. And you must have been like, careful what you wish for. I love this band. And you probably saw Rush back then too. But like, did you think you'd work with Kim or have that connection because of your parents and the Key to Bala?
I thought, even at that early, my first summer was 72 and I was 9 years old. And I incidentally I taught myself to play. There was an old baby grand piano in the Key to Bala, and that's actually where I started to play.
Wow.
I had my visions of grandeur even back then. Because I said my brothers were great musicians and they played and gigged and so that's what I wanted to do. As far as playing with Kim and also Gary Lalonde, I remember seeing the band Rose, which was what eventually turned into Toronto, and very high, by the way. Awesome. I remember seeing Rose, and at times, like I would get a chair before they would open the doors, and I would just get a chair and put it right in front of the stage and just sit there. And I'll never forget sitting in front of Gary Lalonde. I remember he was wearing a purple velour shirt or whatever. It's clear as a bell. So Gary and Kim, no, I never would have dreamed that I was going to play with them. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's so cool. Wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
I do love hearing it.
These are great.
Awesome.
And we should start calling these shows the Canadian goodbye because they take the longest ever. So
yeah, I know, man. It's hard to leave you guys. It's hard to let you go, but thank you so much.
And it's hard to let you go too because the stories are great and it's that thing. But we know we've taken up a lot of your time, so we do again want to thank you for coming on the show, and it's been a fantastic time. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
And next week I expect to see everybody in capes. Is that
that's a given, sir?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a given.
So
cheers, guys.
Next Tuesday,
guys.
Everybody go check out Ray. They want to follow up where whatever you're doing. Where can they go to find you?
You mean online?
Yeah.
Anywhere. Yeah. Just give yourself.
Yeah. Well, raycoburn.ca. Is my website, and as of 2 weeks ago, I'm on Instagram, which I will just say, I'm seeing you guys you guys got like 40,000, 60,000, and even just since this got announced yesterday, my numbers have gone up. Like I'm in I'm over 140 followers now.
There
So
you
thank
go. Hey.
So everybody,
Yeah, but these guys pay for all their followers, so there's really only a 10% real factor there. So
I don't know how you
they're
do
like
that.
the Evander Kane account, so it's okay. You know, everything's.
I became a webcam girl over the break, so I'm getting pretty good numbers.
There you go, man.
Cool. So yeah, raycoburn.ca. That's it, man. And guys, thank you.
Here's your plug. Everybody listening, go follow Ray on Instagram, and
There you go.
We'll see you back here next Tuesday.
There you go.
Perfect.
Right
Thanks,
there.
Ray. Bye.
Love you,
Thanks,
Ray.
guys.
Love
Guys,
you.
love you,
Take
man.
care.
Take care, buddy.
Guys.
Ciao.
Peace.